I'm Thinking of Ending Things is a film by Charlie Kaufman based on a book by Ian Reid. And yes, spoiler alert here. We are already putting out what our theory is because it's an analysis and we are not going to keep it a suspense. The theory that we believe in is that the entire film happens in the janitor's head, and it is a combination of his fantasies, imaginations, desires, nostalgias, and traumas. Throughout the series of the videos, you're going to see a lot of wrong grammar, a lot of stammering, a lot of wrong pronunciations, a lot of concepts which have been wrongly put there or are unjustified or are unexplained. uh, and somebody who is constantly doing this I'm trying to do this for the first time, and so obviously this is very close to a train wreck or a mess, but I still wanted to do this. So if you are watching any of these parts, this is the information that you'll need, and even after all this information you still continue to watch. Thank you and enjoy. So the film starts with us looking at walls with different textures. I think we should be focusing right now on the textures of the wall for two things. One is the clues that they give us, and secondly, the way the shot has been taken. The shot has been taken, I feel, in a way it looks like almost a slideshow or somebody not looking at the walls but reminiscing about it. Um, I think it's the janitor thinking about his house rather than looking at his house. For example, this sewing machine, it's almost at work, it's almost like a still image. It's maybe the only image of the sewing machine he has of how his mother used to use it.
Jake once said, sometimes a thought is closer to the truth, to reality, than an action. You can say anything, you can do anything, but you can't fake a thought.
This, I think, is the gist of the film. Now, this painting, this painting is basically by a German painter, uh, Caspar Friedrich, and basically I know this painting because it's from a cover of a book by Friedrich Nietzsche, and basically, to my mind, what the cover represents is that there's a man looking into the abyss, and everybody who is familiar to some extent to Nietzsche's works knows that for him, looking into the abyss was looking at the meaninglessness and the meaningfulness of life. And I feel it's almost like an indication for us that we are about to look into the abyss as the film is about to start now. Also, it's very necessary that we remember the wallpaper on which this painting is, because this wallpaper is like to me a very important clue to join the theory that I have for the film.
Feels like I've known Jake longer than I have.
This is the first shot we get for the old janitor, and I feel the way he's looking down, we don't exactly know what the background is. Like, it could very well be that the man is just standing in front of any window and just thinking about things, and but it's been shot in a way as if we feel that he's looking down, and the young woman's character is also looking up. What I felt through this arrangement was that. This is the conscious Jake, the Jake which knows that he's thinking about it, the Jake which knows that he's reminiscing, and it's he is looking just at his memory. That, oh, at times, like, if when we are thinking about something and we just uh, start thinking about it, how we are thinking about it. Like right now, if I said it and you started doing it, so then you're also not only thinking, but you're also observing your own thinking. So I think very subtly that has been established through this shot. See, so subtly we could see that the body of the janitor was replaced by the body of Jake, and it's so subtle that you'd barely get it when you're watching it for the first time. And also, we have still not seen Jake, so we don't know whether it's actually Jake or not, or whose body it is. But the body definitely changed from an old man's to a young man. There's a lot ahead as we go ahead in the film. There's a lot of talking about passing through time or time passing through us. I think this shot, it's so beautifully shot, it just keeps on reminding me of that line, that time passing through us, because all the snow is going ahead, And if we just assume that snow represents uh, time, I don't know, somehow it sets very good poetically for me. Before we dive into the characters or what I feel about them, I feel there are two things. Both of these actors, one is Jesse Buckley and another is Jesse Plemons, both are named Jesse. And I don't know whether it's intentional or not intentional, but according if our theory of the young woman existing in Jesse's head, I just it feels eerily perfect to cast two people who are of the same name, that is Jesse, to show that they both wanted the same.
I'm thinking of ending things.
Huh?
What?
Did you say something?
No, I don't think so.
Weird.
Sometimes what happens is that you'd have a negative thought, like subconsciously you'd have some negative thought, be it ending a relationship, ending your life, or whatever, and consciously we censor those thoughts basically, because we aren't very comfortable with it. And I feel, as we see throughout the film, whenever uh, Jessie, that is the young woman, is about to say something that is uncomfortable or something that may emotionally or physically harm Jake, uh, somehow enters her own inner monologue and interrupts it, which I feel is the basically what's happening here is that the conscious is censoring all the dark thoughts the subconscious has.
People stay in unhealthy relationships because it's easier. Basic physics. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. People tend to stay in relationships past their expiration date.
I think this dialogue darkly works for both relationship and suicide. This scene, where she looks into the mirror, she can't get a proper image of her. We can interpret it in two ways. One, I think, is that Jake has a very broken self image. That is, his true subconscious image of himself is broken. Secondly, the young woman is a figment of his imagination, and so she will never be a fully formed being with somebody who has a fully formed personality or a fully formed image. So I think the broken image or the broken reflection is not only a broken reflection of Jake's own subconscious, but also the broken structure of something that is a figment of your imagination, and it will never be something which is complete. Look at the wall behind the TV. It's the same wall that we saw on the painting. Uh, it's the same wall that it's used in the poster of the film. It's the same wall that in the dinner scene it will be there. You already know by this point and of the film that obviously these the janitor and the entire Jake family is definitely related or intertwined.
Just saying, if you want to stop for a snack or anything like that, it would probably be fine. Um, in terms of appetite spoiling, and it might even be advisable.
I'm fine.
Okay.
So, for this entire scene, what I feel Jake is doing is that he wants to avoid going to his parents' place because he is aware that with it comes a lot of bad memories, a lot of things that he'll have to confront. So, just by insisting and over analyzing the dinner or and whether she'll like it or not, basically wants to avoid and make the journey to the house as long as possible. But again, he wants to defend that the place he's taking her to is a good place.
She hasn't been feeling well.
Getting old ain't for sissies, as Betty Davis said.
True, although one might just take issue with her use of the word sissy
Yeah,
as a pejorative.
of course, yeah. It's, it was a different time.
Now there are a lot of conversations like this which almost feel very absurd or at the same time very interesting, uh, that happen in the car. But the thing about that, what I feel is that uh, most of these conversations can be put down into a structure of where, for example, the woman has an opinion, Jake will have a counter opinion. They'll argue it out. Sometimes Jake is the one who has the better opinion or comes out of the argument with the final word. Sometimes it's the young woman. But what happens is that if if you wanted to structure all the conversations or arguments that happen in the film, they are either conversations which happen in the format of us first getting an instinctual thought, then we are ourselves looking at it from a politically correct perspective, that whether it's right to have this thought. We are having our own monologue and our own dialogue of the thought I had. Is it good to have? Is it not good to have? So, in a theory of that, if this all of this happening in the janitor's head, all the conversations are also opinions and counter opinions that all of us have in our heads when we're thinking about some things. We don't directly end up on conclusions. We argue with our own selves. We put uh, we ourselves come up with the synthesis and the antithesis of the argument. So in that sense, I feel that all of these conversations, which are so very interesting, are again at the same time opinions or conflicting opinions that the janitor has about things. But the conflict, he in order to understand that conflict better, what he does is he puts those opinions into other characters, so that each opinion is equally valued.
Just that
I'm
that,
not a metaphorical type
it's just
gal.
that one speaks to me. Incidentally, Wordsworth wrote a series of poems to a woman named Lucy.
Like me.
You know, by this point, it's obvious when she's saying like me, it's not only because in the woman sense of it like me, but also in the imaginary sense of it like me. I think when you watch any Kaufman film, you're supposed to overread and overanalyze everything and anything, especially when he deliberately comes ahead and mentions a piece of art or a piece of work in his own film. So, for the little that I know about Wordsworth and his poems about Lucy, is that Lucy was an imaginary character uh, to some extent or the other, which Wordsworth felt was like a sister to him, and he wrote very beautiful poems about about this character of Lucy, uh, which eerily is very similar to our film, in the sense that someone creating an imaginary character and assuming and pretending they are real and creating truly beautiful art because of it.
Who's that?
It's just a friend.
Basically, what I feel is that with all these conversations about Wordsworth and everything, conscious Jake is trying to distract his subconscious, and as we see by um, complimenting the young woman that is his subconscious, he is to some extent successfully distracting her. And as soon as the subconscious is distracted with things which are not actually the truth, the subconscious reminds itself of what truly is up with it or what truly is wrong with it. So when we hear the message of the subconscious, the things it says is that there's only one question to answer. So whenever she gets a call or a missed call from Lucy or the other names she gets in the film, it's basically to me a gentle reminder or not so gentle reminder of the subconscious, reminding what truly is the problem and that she can't avoid it for long.
That's odd. Did you see that swing set we just passed?
What's being said?
It's the same swing set we saw in in front of the Jandy's house.
What's that?
Where?
I didn't see it.
Why would that be there? I mean, clearly no one has lived in that house for years.
Someone's moving in and they brought the swing set first. That's all I can think of.
That seems like an unlikely sequence of events.
And see, now the consciousness is trying to make up for the mind wandering and putting something where it's not supposed to be. It's trying to somehow justify it. And you can see how Jake is almost failing to justify it, because basically the mind just wandered into those thoughts and put the swing set there. It was not supposed to be there.
And for me, interested in and knowledgeable about my girlfriend's work.
I do like Jake. And he's educated. Our fields are different, but He's curious and keeps up. That's a good thing. That's in the pro column. And he's cute in his awkward way.
What basically the subconscious is doing is validating Jake, validating the insecurities he has, validating the uh, fears he has. At the same time, it's also a fantasy in the sense that uh, all the things that he could not be, he tries to be it through his imagination. Now, for example, let's say he wanted to be a biology professor who wrote papers. The girlfriend has that job right now. In the film ahead, she goes on switching her jobs, uh, which could all be potential jobs that he wanted to do but he could not do. Basically, uh, he is trying to live all his fantasies and escape all his regrets through the imaginary people that he creates, who are always perfect and who are always validating him. This not only applies to Jake, but if we just see this point from a writer's perspective, that's basically what a writer does, or what at least Kaufman is doing. He's creating characters which are doing things which he wanted to do and he could not do. At the same time, these are characters which are validating him, forgiving him, and so forth.
Jake tells me that he feels it. Feels invisible.
Yeah, that line is just so properly juxtaposed with the scene that janitor of all the people is the most invisible person in the school.
Sorry, what?
I'm still confused why these lip close-up has happened. I don't know what that means. I really want to know that.
But I know Oklahoma best, I guess. They do it every few years for obvious reasons.
Wait, who does it every few years?
Sometimes I see kids who are in past productions, at the supermarket, working in stores in town. Older now.
See, here I feel the janitor is slipping up, or the conscious Jake is slipping up, because this entire information of kids performing a play only a janitor could know, not Jake. Again, I feel this entire musical needs to be dissected to understand the film better. I have not yet done that.
That's why I like road trips. It's good to remind yourself the world's larger than the inside of your own head.
Kaufman trying to take a take at his own self.
It is beautiful out here. In a bleak, heartbroken kind of way.
It's beautiful in a bleak, heartbroken kind of way. It also means it's bleak and heartbroken in the way when you live in your memories. It's beautiful because your memories are beautiful, but at the same time, it's heartbreaking because it's not real.
Can I hear it?
You can read it.
I like to hear them in your voice, and you're so good at reciting them.
Not really, but thanks.
It'll go with the poetic scenery.
I don't know, Jake. I don't really feel much like performing
Come on,
right
it'll
now.
pass the time.
There's a constant debate between the conscious and the subconscious of whether they should do it or not. Like exactly here, we can see when she looks back. Now it's strange at first to know why would she look back. This poem is not actually hers. It's from a book and by some other poet. So I feel that it's almost like she's making sure that the conscious Jake does not know that she's actually pretending to have a poem which someone else wrote as her own. I don't know still whether it completely makes sense, but it really feels like somebody just checking over their shoulder of whether they're safe or not. I think it's the subconscious being checking over their shoulder whether they are safe or not, stealing work, work, or some work which is not theirs.
And the home style silences and clouds contribute to nothing but the general malaise. Clouds, such as they are in fact suspect and made from a different material than those you left behind. You yourself are cut from a different cloudy cloth. Returned. Remaindered.
So you'll feel in this poem, which is so beautiful and heartbreaking, is that it does not apply much to a loving couple like these guys are pretending to be. It applies more to the janitor who has a lonely life of just working at one place and going home to a empty home. So the poem works there more. Secondly, what happens is that as the subconscious dwells into this poem, which is almost way too personal and relatable for the janitor, what happens is a slip up. A slip up in the sense that the color of the young woman's sweater changes, and mm, it's obviously put there so that we could observe it, but the reason is not shown to us, which I feel the reason is that um, the mind right now is so focused on its own misery of loneliness that the fantasy uh, is not being careful enough, and so it does these careless mistakes of changing her clothes, because in your mind uh, your mind can wander from one scene to the other, or one place to the other, or one color to the other very fast without you even consciously knowing it just happened.
You come back with X-ray vision.
Now she literally looks at us, looks into the camera, and it's almost like a message to us. And it's so scary in some sense, because it's never addressed that she's looking at us.
Everything you see now, all of it, bone.
I think that's just Kaufman talking to us, irrespective of whether film is a medium or not. It's just, pure emotional communication to the audience.
Wow.
Well, wow is an all-purpose exclamation. I just realized that.
It's like you wrote it about me.
I guess that's what one hopes for when writing a poem.
What's that?
Some universality in the specific, I don't know.
It's like you wrote it about me.
I'm thinking of ending things.
There's the thing about Kaufman. He'll not only tell you what you're going to see in the film, he'll also tell you what you'll talk about the film once the film is over.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
You just seem sort of far away, is all.
I'm just thinking.
The conscious always knows if the subconscious is being really messy or if something's wrong with it.
Anyway, you can always jump off a train.
Movies. In real life, you'll probably die jumping from a moving train.
That's very true. I suppose I watched too many movies.
This is very important, and I think this point is proved again. Uh, Proved again as the film goes ahead. That how films, especially the films that most of us watch, are too artificial in the sense that too disconnected from reality, and all they do is merely pretend that they are close to reality. And soon our perspective in this postmodern world is so jumbled because we see something which is pretending to be real and it's not real. Then we take that interpretation and use it in the real world, and now we act in the real world pretending as if it's the real world, and thereby not acting real. And like Jake says, which is almost the conscious confessing that he has watched too many movies and his mind is filled with lies and fantasies and desires which are unrealistic, which are unnecessary. And like the woman says, it's a societal malady, and that every one of us suffers through it. And they always dictate our uh, expectations and a lot of our sorrows, and at the same time joys of our lives are defined by the movies we love.
Now we're both dead.
Ta-da!
It's just such a jump cut, you watch any other film and they never cut to the location the way this film does. It's almost that the conscious realize that, oh, the conversation has been stretched as long as it could for the road, so let's just jump to the house. And because it's a proper jump cut which is very unsettling, that why suddenly the house has arrived, but it's because the mind has decided that this is the longest I could stretch this conversation for the snow. And so that's that. the conversation ends here, and we need to jump to the next piece of fantasy.